Hello, I'm Luca Immesi. I'm a filmmaker and DaVinci Resolve certified trainer. The Dehancer team asked me to review and make a tutorial about Dehancer Pro, their plugin to make the digital image more cinematic, more like film. I have to say that it works really well. We will see a couple of different workflows, one with just the plugin and the other one in combination with the nodes of DaVinci. So let's start. If we open project settings on color management, this is my settings. I use a Rec 709 Gamma 2.4 monitor. If you have a monitor for the web, you can put Gamma 2.2, and if you are on a Mac and you have just the computer monitor, you can put Rec 709A. Here on general option, I usually uncheck, because it's checked by default, use as curve for contrast. I uncheck it because I like to use contrast in linear ways, but we'll see later. Okay, so let's apply Dehancer here. This is me with the FX3 camera, and what I like to do at the beginning with Dehancer, I like to go in option and disable all tools, and to press alt click to close all the section and start from the top. If you press Shift F, you can have the image and all the settings here on the side. This is the input, and here we have to decide how to interpret our footage. So there's different ways to use Dehancer and interpret the footage. In this case, we will use input camera profile. So we choose a camera, Sony, and the camera is Cinemaline FX3 and the slug-free as Gamma 3 Cine. In this section we have exposure compensation and these other settings that are more technical settings. And with the exposure compensation, I adjust the exposure. With temperature compensation, I adjust the white balance. With tint, I adjust the green and magenta tint also for white balance. The fringe, it deals with chromatic aberration. We leave it unchecked for now. And then we go to the film section, and here we can choose our film stock. By default, the film stock is Kodak Vision Free 250D, and we enable it. Here we have this push-pull effect that try to mimic the push-pull effect when you shoot on film. EV means exposure value, so it means that this scale is on stop. We can go down to -2 stop or up to +2 stops. We will see later this section. We go directly to print, and on print now we are in linear, so it means we are not applying any print film. And now we choose to apply. Basically we have these two print film. One is Fuji and the other one is Kodak 2383, that is pretty much the standard. So I like to check also analog range limiter, that it deals with the analog range of a print film, and it looks the roll-off and the blacks are less contrasted. According to the manual, if you use a negative film stock, Kodak Vision Free is a negative film stock, you should use on the print film or Kodak 2383 or Fuji 3513. And if you use a positive film stock, for example Kodachrome 64, you should leave it in linear. And if you use like Fujifilm Superia, that is a photographic negative film, you should use a Kodak Endura glossy paper, that is the print film for the photographic stock. These are just suggestions, experiment as you like. So come back to Kodak 2383. I come back to Kodak Vision Free 250D. And so this is our settings. Now here, these settings deals with the adjustment that you do to the print film. So target white, I can make the image a little bit warmer or a little bit cooler. Exposure, it's EV is exposure values, so it's a deal with the in stops for exposure, -3 and +3, and I can adjust the exposure. Tonal contrast, I can adjust the tonal contrast, and color density, it deals with the density of the color, and this is just saturation. Let's say that we are happy with this one, and now we can come back to the other sections. So film developer, I try to mimic the development of film, and these settings adjust the contrast, the gamma correction, the color separation, and color boost of the development process. So if we enable it, we have contrast, and we can adjust the contrast. Also the gamma, it's like a pivot point of a contrast. Color separation, and we have the color boost that can boost the color. Film compression, it deals with the highlights, so all this section deals with the highlights and with the adjustment of roll-off of the highlights. We can adjust the impact, the white point of the highlights, the tonal range, and the color density of the highlights. And then we have expand, and with expand we have the black point. We can adjust the black point of the image and the white point of the image. Okay, now we have colored, and colored is like a printer lights device. It tried to mimic the printer light device, and printer lights was the device that the film lab used to make the color correction before the digital software. So here we can go to yellow and blue, magenta and green, and cyan and red. And we can gang together. And here on in this section we can adjust the shadow, the midtones and highlights, so we can make the shadows warmer or cooler. So let's make the shadow cooler and the midtones a little bit warmer and the highlights a little bit warmer. And with the preserve exposure, the exposure is untouched. So now we have a film grain. The film grain, if we enable it, it's very strong, so I like to use 16mm ISO 50 preset and dial to 0, and I find that in this way it's I like very much this kind of grain. The grain of Dehancer is very good because it's organic and very believable. Then we have halation, and I like very much this profile 35mm Super 25 of halation. So if we enable it, it's a subtle difference, but it's very good because it's very subtle but precise. And also bloom. You can see that we have a bloom effect that film, and I like also to leave it on this preset 35 Super 35. So if we go here and we change the preset, for example, we put like 8mm ISO 500, and here halation we use 8mm preset and also 8mm preset for bloom, and same thing to film damage, same thing to film breath, same thing to gate wave, and same thing to overscan. You can see that we have a quite believable Super 8 film look. Of course, it's better to shoot on Super 8 if you want that look, but it's quite believable. It's nice. So let's come back to our settings before. To finish, we have monitor, and here on monitor I have the false color, and this is also a separate plugin that you can download for free on the Dehancer site, and it's very handy. And also you have a clipping indication here. It becomes red if you're going overexpose. Then we have output here, and it deals with the strength of a filter. Then you have a loop generator, that is very nice feature, and you can choose between small and normal. I suggest you use normal. With the disable input transform, you disable the input camera profile. I suggest to the Dehancer team to make the option to use a 65 point LUT. And then here on option, you are quality, normal, fast, and then high slow. According to the manual, they say that normal fast works in the most part of situations. Then we have license info to use your license. Check profiles to download the profiles of the cameras. And then disable tools, you disable all the tools. Let's see now another kind of workflow, and the settings are the same of the one before. This is my lovely cat John, and now we'll see this kind of workflow. So now we have a color space transform. This is a Sony input color space to output color space to DaVinci White Gamut, and we have the color space transform out to DaVinci White Gamut to Rec 709 Gamma 2.4. The setting for the out is DaVinci, and here apply forward OOTF is checked, and here is like this. Usually the node tree is more complicated than this one, but let's try to keep it simple for this demonstration. So I apply the answer here on this node, and I disable all tools. I go here, and on source I put DaVinci White Gamut intermediate. I enable film, and I enable the print, that is Cossack 2383, and let's try to use it the nodes of DaVinci to adjust the image. So usually I use this kind of workflow. Here I use a node for exposure and white balance, and then another one for saturation and contrast, and then of course other nodes for mask and other things. But let's say that the basic balance are these two. So for exposure and white balance, I use for exposure the high dynamic range color wheels, and here on the global wheels there's the exposure settings, and this exposure, it mimics the exposure that you will do in camera. And for the white balance, I like to use the offset wheel of the primary color wheels. Let's say that I like the result here with the white balance and exposure, and we can go to the saturation. For the saturation, same thing, I use the high dynamic range color wheels, and I like the saturation of the HDR wheel because it's more gentle, so it's like you can use like 10. For the contrast, I like to use the linear contrast of the primaries color wheels, and then with the pivot adjusting the pivot point of a contrast. Okay, let's say that I'm happy with the image now. If I go to Dehancer and I press Shift F, I have again here the settings of the parameter. What I like here is to enable film compression, and you see that the image, the rough of the image changes, and to deal with the highlights part of the image. You can see that we can adjust very easily the tonal range of the image. Okay, and we can also put a little bit of tonal contrast in the print film section, and also a kind of color density. So this is my two workflows with the Dehancer Pro. I like it very much. It's a very good software. It mimics very well the characteristic of film, and it's very easy and fun to use it. If you want to buy it, you can have a 10% discount. You will find the link in the description. Thank you very much. See you. Ciao.